Hello and welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering. Thank you so much for joining us. And I am delighted to say I've got somebody in the flesh today, which is lovely. Welcome to the podcast, Natalie.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Natalie.
Hi,
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
So you've been a foster carer for over 10 years, haven't you?
Yes.
Tell us about that then. Let's go right back to the beginning. What was it that made you want to decide to be a foster carer?
I think it's something mainly that my husband had always wanted to do. He hasn't had children of his own per se, so he helped bring up my son, it's his stepson, and he'd worked as a youth leader back in the day, and then we both trained as teachers. Wow. And it's just something he was always interested in, and he had mooted it quite a few years when my birth son was about 15, but it wasn't the right time. And then when he left and went to university, it seemed the right time. We both worked in education. I've worked with teenage children for a long, long time. And I am more than aware that it's really hard to place teenage children and particularly teenage boys in foster care.
Yeah.
So it felt like something that we could help with and do. And yeah, we had a house that was big enough, and it was just the two of us. We enjoyed a year, just the two of us, and then decided that we could. Yeah.
I think that's interesting what you say, Natalie, about it not being the right time. I think sometimes, we think we have to make a decision and just rush right into it. And, you speak to an agency like the National Fostering Group and that's it. You've got to do it right there and then. Sometimes that decision can take several years, can't it, for the time to be right?
Yeah, it just felt like the right time for us, that we had that to give and we had the space and the time, and yeah, it just felt that, and the house was right, and yeah, it felt the right time rather than, like you said, rather than rushing into a decision that wouldn't have been.
Yeah. And what do you think about the assessment process? Do you remember it 10 years ago?
I remember it clearly, yes. At the time, we've been through it twice now. So the first time we went through it, we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But the lady who did it, the woman who did it, was fantastic. She was, when she said you have a preference about what children you would like to take, and we said teenage boys, she cried. Because she said
happiness.
Nobody ever said that
no
to me
one says
in all
that.
these years.
People say nice, cute little ones.
That's not how it ended up to begin with, anyway. But yeah, it was. Although it can feel intrusive, it felt necessarily so.
Yeah.
It felt like the right thing, and you want them to poke into every part of your life, because they have to know that you're doing it for the right reasons, and it felt like the right process. And, we have nothing to hide, so you're not. It's not intimidating at all.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose it can be quite therapeutic as well, really. And you learn things about each other if you're doing it as a couple, and about yourselves sometimes as well, don't you?
You learn things about each other that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely, which is a bit of a. But yeah, you also learn. It's quite nice because you learn what other people see of you that you don't necessarily get to know. So, sort of the references.
Yeah, because of course they do speak to your wider friends and family as well.
And past employers and my ex-husband, who spoke very highly of me, but they speak to absolutely everybody. And, it's really nice to sort of look back on that sometimes, because, especially as a teacher, as a profession, you don't get a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
So,
and actually, I'd just like to pick up on the ex-husband thing. That can be quite frightening for some people, can't it? Mm-hmm. Like, what? You need to speak to my ex-husband? It's like, yeah, we do. But people shouldn't be daunted by that, should they?
No, not at all, not at all.
Yeah.
It's part of the natural process.
Yeah.
He's the father of my child. And
I've had social workers say to me, we're very aware that your ex-husband or wife or ex-partner might not say the greatest of things about you. We're completely understanding of that. That's not going to rule you out of the process, is it?
No, not at all, because not every breakup is amicable.
Yeah.
It just happens that ours was, and it's about who I am as a mother more than anything else. Whatever our partnership was, it's about who I was as a parent.
So people should definitely not be put off by that, because I think sometimes that can feel quite daunting when people realise that they do have to speak to ex-partners, but as you say, it's necessary, isn't it?
And actually, my husband's ex-partner, that wasn't an amicable split. So they spoke to my husband's
Yeah.
ex-partner. And, that's all part of the court, isn't it?
Absolutely. So going back 10 years then, you've done the assessment. The first child children come to live with you. There was 2, wasn't there?
2 little brothers. They were aged 7 and 8.
And what was that like?
It was lovely. They had been in temporary care for 2 years. They were a group of 5 children, a sibling group of 5. And so it had taken a while to decide how they were going to split the children up. So the eldest 2 came to live with us. They were like little mice. They were tiny little terrified things because it was big, and it was it was very weird because over 2 years they'd found a place of safety, and then they were taken away from the first place where they'd ever felt safe. But the first time they came to visit, the eldest one bought lots of posters and stuff that he stuck up on his wall, and he very much marked his place and where he was going to be. And they settled in very, very quickly. We took them at the beginning of the Easter holidays 10 years ago. So we had the 2 weeks over Easter. The school was fantastic. I have to say, the primary school were brilliant. And the deputy head went into school and invited them into school and gave them a tour of the school during the holidays while it was quiet. Yeah. So they understood where they were going and what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we were very, very lucky because we lived in the centre of Appleby, where we had the cricket ground right next to us and a field and a swimming pool that you could walk to. So there was lots of stuff. They'd learnt to swim within a week. So we took them every day to the baths.
Yeah.
And they learnt to swim. They had a lot to do and a lot of outside space.
Yeah.
So they settled really quickly.
So what happens, Natalie, when, as you say, they were part of a sibling group of 5, they were unfortunately split up from that sibling group. What happens with contact with their siblings? Do you still try and maintain that?
Yeah, it's a very weird situation. The next child down went to another foster carer. He has complex medical needs. And the younger 2, unfortunately, were adopted. So the contact stops with them, the people who adopted them. There is a way whereby they can still keep in touch, but their adoptive parents didn't want that to happen, and it is their choice. They kept in touch with the middle child, the next one down, and we maintained family time between the boys and him for many years. Our current child in placement, his brother actually lives with the same child now.
Oh, okay.
So we saw him at the weekend.
Oh, wow.
That it was really nice to see him, actually. So we know him as a young adult as well. But so he's still with the same foster care as he went to 10.5 years ago.
Right, okay. So these situations can be quite complex sometimes, can't they? Quite a lot to manage, but I suppose it's just a case-by-case basis, isn't it? Every situation that you have encountered over the last 10 years and you'll continue to encounter is never going to be the same, is it? It's just
every situation is unique.
You just got to be flexible, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Every circumstance is unique in terms of birth, family, siblings.
Yeah.
And you just have to adapt to the circumstances. And
So those 2 little boys that came to live with you 10 years ago, how long did they stay with you for?
The eldest was with us for 5 years, and the younger one was with us for 7 years.
Wow, okay. And are you still in contact with them now?
Very much so, yeah. The eldest one comes to stay. He loves to come and stay and work with my husband because my husband now works in building, and we're doing up a house of our own. And actually, he would be here this week, but he's got a massive dog, a cane corser, and we've got a little Springer Spaniel puppy, and the 2
they're not going to
the 2 are not going to mix. So he can't find anybody to look after his dog, but he's desperate to come back and do a bit of work with my husband. He's in his own flat now, so we took him a load of pans and cooking utensils a few weeks ago, and I sent him a list of his favourite foods that he could make in one pot that he used to have at home. Yeah. And the recipes and instructions. So he's very much part of our life. And the younger one phones when he needs money.
Yeah. Very typical of children.
The bank of foster mum and dad.
Absolutely.
But knows that, we're there for them.
Yeah, definitely. So after those 2 boys moved on, which children did you get to come and live with you next?
We had a break for a couple of years. I mean, to be totally honest, the disruption of the placement wasn't that nice in the end. Birth family were involved, and the elder one went into a children's home, and he was very angry with the world. He recognises now that birth family disrupted the placement. He talked to my current foster children a couple of months ago and said, if you will ever leave here, it's the worst thing you can ever do. It's the worst decision I ever made, bless him. But it wasn't the most pleasant of times.
Yeah.
And, we'd got very attached to them.
Yeah.
At the same time, my dad was dying. He had a stroke and then he died of liver cancer. So we took a couple of years break.
Yeah.
And then we were going to downsize and not foster anymore. And we sold our house and rented a house nearer where I worked in Carlisle. And then every house we looked at, we said, oh, it's too small for children.
Yeah.
Oh, we couldn't foster if we got this.
Yeah,
oh,
we need
where
to have
would
an
we put
extra
the kids?
bedroom
And
just
without
in case.
sort of
Yeah.
talking about it, we bought a 6-bedroom house with a top floor where we could have. So then we took 2 lovely boys, teenage boys, for 3 weeks respite while their carer went on holiday. They were absolutely delightful. And and then an emergency placement, and then over time, another placement, and then another 2. So
Yeah, and who have you got with you now?
So we have 3 boys,
Right.
aged 12, 14 and 14. As of next week, 13 and 14 and 14. But 3 teenage boys.
Wow. And respite placements, Natalie, what are they like?
When they come to us,
Yeah.
Oh, it was really lovely because they're very settled where they are.
Yeah.
We knew their carer because their carer used to do respite placement for our eldest original child in care. So we knew their carer. We met them first. We went out to see them at the house, asked about what they wanted to eat, asked about the night. Having a dog really helps. They adore. And we've got a very, very
such
calm
an icebreaker, aren't they? Yeah.
We've got a very calm Springer Spaniel who's lovely. So that really helped. So they really were excited to meet the dog. And no, they settled really quickly. They cried when they had to go back. It was.
So just remind us what respite care is. Could it just be like when carers are going on holiday or they're going to hospital or something like that?
Yeah, we've got respite care for our boys in a few weeks because we're going to see our birth son in Nottingham.
Right, okay.
And there's a lot going on there. So we've got some respite care for all 3 boys. So that's just for a weekend, sometimes just for a night.
Yeah.
In this case, the carer wanted a break with her immediate family. And she wanted to go away for 3 weeks. And she was going to Turkey and she felt it would be too hot for the boys she had.
Okay.
And they are quite delicate little souls. So, and she knew us. I mean, that's a big thing that she knew us and we knew her. So she knew they'd be happy. And because it is, it is hard for 3 weeks, but.
Yeah. I think that's good to know for, carers coming into fostering, that it is very flexible like that. There might be something that you need to go to and you can't take your foster children with you. There might be a time when you have to go into hospital or life gets in the way in some way. And there's always a way of managing that, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. When we used to have our eldest child in care, who was with us for 5 years, had quite a difficult time and used to feel very conflicted about sort of living with carers rather than birth family. And when he was going through a hard time, he liked to go to respite. Mm-hmm. And we had that support structure in place that if he felt like it was too overwhelming being at home, he could go and stay with the carer who we did respite for most of the time. But it was like a safety net for him. It was somewhere to go, and it gave us breathing space and his brother breathing space. So, we've had it for all sorts of reasons. Yeah. My son's wedding, 2 of our current children in placement didn't go to my son's wedding because it had been planned way before they came to live with us. So we got respite care when we went to the wedding. But they see it like a little holiday.
Yeah.
They really enjoy it.
It's a bit of change of
space from mum and dad and your normal, the normal routine.
Yeah. So we've talked about how, sometimes life can be a bit unpredictable. You're not really sure what's going to happen. You have to stay flexible. Every situation is different. Sometimes placements don't always work out the way you want them to. And you've got experience of this, haven't you, when placements can break down. So can you just tell us a little bit about that and the experience you've had of that?
With the elder child, when it broke down, it was upsetting. He disrupted the placement purposefully because his birth family, who'd had eventually 9 children taken into care, thought it was all children's services fault and railed against the system, and encouraged him to do things that were dangerous to us. And you could see that conflict in him. It was hard to watch it for him as well. But he got quite violent and destroyed his bedroom. We had to have a safe space for his brother to go to, which was our next door neighbours. And it was really upsetting because none of this is his fault, and you understand that there's this really hurt little child in there. Although he was a big strapping 14-year-old. And that was difficult, but you have to, then look after his brother, and we did for another 2 years. And then, looking back now, we have such a fantastic relationship with those kids, and we are still the only constant in their life, and they remember the time with us. And I think my dad said at the time, my father was a head teacher, and he said afterwards, you've given them 5 years of looking at what a real family should look like. So you can never take that away from them. 5 years, we took them to Mexico, we took them to France, we took them to Portugal. Yeah. They were very much a part of our extended family. So no matter what goes wrong at the end of it, they had 5 years of, a functioning, happy family life. And they recognise that now.
Yeah. And you got there in the end. It was just a difficult journey.
Yeah. But life's difficult, it's, you don't go on into this thinking it's all going to be plain sailing, because you're dealing with, children who've had all sorts of different issues and problems and trauma.
Sometimes very complex trauma, yeah. And as you say, the journey can be difficult, but why is it worth it, Natalie?
It's hard to describe. You just know you're making a real difference. You're making a real difference to children's lives, in a nutshell. But it's hard to describe. The eldest child that we had who left, last time he came to stay with us, we have lots of discussions about now. He's very, very mature in his emotions and feelings and very open about talking about it. And he told me ages ago, I don't know what love's like. I've never had a relationship where I felt like I loved somebody. And then he went to bed the last time he came, and on the way to bed he said, "Oh, Natalie, I love you." And it was just, that is everything, from a strapping, he's 6'4", 19-year-old. But just knowing that you're making that difference to children. I have, we have a chaotic household of 3 very lively boys at the moment, all with very different needs. One who's like a Duracell bunny crossed with a Cocker Spaniel puppy. One who has developmental problems. The other one who has been tested for autism but has other diagnosis that, just can't regulate their emotions. And it all mixes into this chaotic, happy household, And
when you said there, Natalie, when your foster son told you he loved you, I could see visibly how that's really touched you. How did that feel in that moment?
Oh, it was really emotional, because, you just think, he was very admitting before that he didn't know what love felt like, but he does know what it feels like, because no matter what, we have never, ever rejected him. We've always been there for him. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's just we lend him money quite often because he's finding it hard to budget because he's in his own home for the first time. But, I wasn't the best at budgeting when I first went to university. It's sort of, you understand all of that. And he pays us back on the dot every time. Aww. Before he got an online bank account, he used to send me a picture of him posting the envelope through the letterbox to show that he was sending me the money back. I mean, it was, and we'll be there for anything that he needs. But it just feels that, he's got somebody that he can turn to.
And you must feel so proud of them, Natalie.
Yeah, we are very proud. I'm very proud of the young, You every child that you look after touches you in some way.
Yeah. And how long do you think you'll do this for? I know how long's a piece of string.
I know.
As you said, you thought you were probably going to give it a rest.
I was going to retire from teaching as well, and I'm still there twice a week.
I think there's just that nurturing in you that you just can't move away from. It's just part of you.
As I'll do it as long as I can. I mean, one of our current children in placement is 14, but will probably never live independently. So, I don't know how long he's going to be with us, but, if he's with us until he's 30 and I'm still able to, in some way, semi-independently, the plan is that we will always be sort of in the background for him
Yeah.
in some, I mean, as we are with the others. But,
Yeah. And the reason, of course, we do this podcast, Natalie, is we want to inspire people who are listening and watching now. And they've listened to your story today, see how really deeply it's touched you, you know. How would you encourage people to go for it? They're thinking about being a foster carer. They're not sure. They think it might be an up and down journey, as we know it can be. How would you encourage them to go for it?
Although it is an up and down journey, and it is, and it can be, it is the singularly most rewarding thing I've ever done. And my husband feels the same. And the extended family, my extended family are very caring about all the children we've looked after. And just, if you think you can make a difference, you will make a difference, and making a difference to children who might not otherwise get that. One of our current children in placement was in a residential children's home for 3 years. They said they couldn't find a placement for him. The boy is absolutely lovely. Everybody who meets him falls in love with him. He's the kindest, most generous, most loving child. Young man, he's 14. he does have developmental delays, but how anybody could not want to look after him is beyond me. It's sort of, so it's not the. Yes, there's a lot of personal reward, but it's also thinking about what you're given to, if you're in that privileged position to be able to do it.
Yeah, and you really can make a difference to so many children's lives. And as you say, there is personal reward. And what do you feel that is? What do you feel that you've gained from being a foster
Watching these children grow.
Yeah.
Watching them grow and gaining confidence. I sent a little video of our middle child in placement who has developmental delays to his school the other day, actually. When he came to us, he couldn't read. And couldn't read common words. Even the and he would struggle over. And he started drama GCSE. He's in special needs unit within a mainstream school, but started drama GCSE this year and was terrified about having to read aloud. And then stood in front of us on Thursday night and read 5 pages of the play, word for word. He stumbled over one word, which funnily enough was difficult. But at the end, because I was so impressed, I videoed the last couple of minutes of him reading the last page and sent it to the Senko at school and said, here's the boy who couldn't read 18 months ago, thank you to you and your team because... But, and we support him at home, but, just watching that and the fact that he wanted to do it and he had the confidence to do it, watching the confidence grow and,
it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for chatting to us today, Natalie. It's been lovely. And thank you for being so open and so honest and so vulnerable. It's been really, really lovely to hear your story. And please do come back and check in. We have people who come back and check in, tell us how they're getting on. So we'd love to have you here again.
Thank you, Helen.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.